Well, some on the political left love to use the word, and often use the word, white privilege as an argument in policy debates.
But an exchange that took place on the radio yesterday between host David Webb and legal analyst Ariva Martin was pretty embarrassing for her.
That's a whole nother long conversation about white privilege and things that you have the privilege of doing that people of color don't have the privilege of.
How do I have the privilege of white privilege?
David, by virtue of being a white male, you have white privilege.
Oh man, there was this part on this movie, one of my favorite movies, Menace to Society, where he says, where the detective is sitting across from another young man. He's sitting across from Kane. That's the character. He's sitting across from Kane, and Kane messed up on a part of his story. And he said, the detective said to him, "You know you effed up, right? You know you effed up." She really messed up on that one, man. That's crazy, bro. How does she not know that he's? Oh well. I apologize because I am just now learning who David Webb is myself. So I guess she's assuming that if I'm a black woman calling conservative radio station or something, then who I'm speaking to must be white. That's okay. That's kind of ignorant, but all right. Let's move.
David, by virtue of being a white male, you have white privilege.
Ariva, I hate to break it to you, but you should have been better prepped. I'm black.
Okay. David Webb joins us, the host of Fox Nation's Reality Check. David, when she said that to you, obviously you were not face-to-face.
Oh, my God.
No, we were not. We were on the radio, which is what obviously makes this really interesting to me. That, forget tone, voice, being prepped, as I said to her, she immediately defaulted to an attack, which is a false narrative. There is no such thing as white privilege. There's earned privilege in life that you work for. There are those who may have a form of privilege that they exert on others in a form of influence. But this is about more than just what she said and the embarrassment, and she should be, but the default to this easy false narrative.
Now, just so y'all know, if this is your very first time watching the channel, again, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I'm not really big into politics. I'm just now learning a whole bunch about it right now. And as far as white privilege is concerned, you will go back onto some of my earlier videos and you will see people fussing at me on a lot of my videos because I too was like, man, what do you mean? White privilege is a thing. White people clearly get more privilege and clearly get this and clearly get that. Now I've learned a whole lot since then. And I would love for you to go see some of them videos and check it out for yourself. But I see exactly what he's saying right now. And people usually do, especially people of color, we usually do jump to the white privilege argument. And that's an issue. That's an issue. But I'm going to let him go ahead and finish.
Embarrassment, and she should be, but the default to this easy false narrative.
What went through your mind when she said that? And your comeback was pretty quick. And what did she say after she learned that you were black?
Well, she apologized. She, you're caught. What do you do? So she apologized. But in that apology, she throws her team under the bus. And first of all, I have never done, her producers. I have never done that to anyone that's ever worked on any of my shows on radio or television. I would never do that. So frankly, they should consider why they're being thrown away. But I have a question: who gives you the wrong information that I'm white to come on my radio show? Think about that for a minute.
Nobody told her that you are white. She automatically assumed that if the conversation is about, I don't even know what the conversation was about, but if she's a liberal, a black liberal, talking to, debating someone about issues that are conservative, then she's going to automatically assume that the person she's speaking to over the phone, especially if you conduct yourself in a certain, if you're speaking in if you don't sound like, your voice is not super heavy, and you don't have you're not speaking in certain terms that's familiar to her as that comes from a black man, then she automatically assumed that the person I'm talking to gotta be white. And since you have to be white, obviously you don't understand my plight and my issues and the people that look like me issues. So when she showed her hand, she looked foolish. You know what I mean? It's one of them situations where she, you know what I mean? She lost the battle by simply not being prepped.
That I'm white to come on my radio show. Think about that for a minute.
What did she say, her team? What was the bad information?
They gave her the wrong information. So
what does that mean?
Well, that's my question. How do you give someone the wrong information about my skin color? But, you know, I also went into something, and I want people...
I'm not going to stop it after this. I do want him to talk, but I will say this. Ariva, I will say this. You never go into anybody's platform without knowing who they are, what they represent. That's first and foremost. That in and of itself is extremely arrogant. It's arrogant that you are too busy to do your due diligence, to do your research before you go onto anybody's platform or call to anyone's radio show without knowing who you're talking to, period. Her people shouldn't have had to give her any information whatsoever. She should have done her research. I'm calling this radio station, and it's actually this gentleman's show. His name is David Webb. I'm calling David Webb's show. I should probably use the tools that's in front of me, which is do your Googles. That's all I say to people. Do your daggone Googles, and this embarrassment would have never happened. Period. That's how I look at it.
Give someone the wrong information about my skin color. But, you know, I also went into something, and I want people to understand this. There's a serious conversation to be taken from this. As I've said before, our skin is an organ. It doesn't think, it doesn't formulate ideas. Let's look at it that way and go back to the ideas in our head, the ideas in our mind, and the things we need to discuss.
So here's the thing. Let's look at the whole issue in particular. You had a set of beliefs that she just assumed made you white because you believe what?
Because I was talking about law and process and due process. To be fair, we had a long conversation, probably about 12 minutes or so, going into this portion of my interview with her. And it was a fair exchange of ideas. We were talking about issues where we agree, disagree. We're talking about proof, all things that relate to that. And then we got into the story of media coverage, the CBS coverage team that was tweeted out by AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. They're being attacked because of color. And that's how we came around to this. Then I talked about qualifications. I'd been through different genres in radio, as you guys know. Rock, urban, hip hop, you name it. And I've been through different genres in talk. And it was because I did the work, and that's why I made the qualification statement. But being on Patriot Radio with me and being on a conservative talk station, well, I must have been white. It was in her head. But I go back to who gives you the wrong information about my skin color?
I think that was just her response. She was just caught. I don't think her producers tell her. I would imagine they're not telling her what color skin the person
I don't
interviewing
look for color.
Well, that's another thing too, because we automatically assume that if we're talking to anybody about patriotism and conservatism or conservatism, I don't know how to really say that. How y'all say it. I heard Candace Owens say conservatism before, and I heard someone else say it, but I also heard someone say conservativism. But either way, whenever we're having a conversation with someone, we automatically we are already placed in these boxes, these groups. We assume that if you believe these certain things, then you must be white. That's something I've been learning on my doing these reactions too. We're just natural Democrats if we're black, because that's what's fed to us. And if you hear somebody talking about accountability, patriotism, law, like he said, law, then you automatically assume, yeah, they must be white. And if they are black and they believe that, then they are an Uncle Tom, they are a coon, they are, pandering, those type of things. And it's so natural that when she said it, she thought she made a point. Even if she would have said that to a white person, it would not have been a good point. You're just saying this because of white privilege, and clearly you're a white man, so you got white privilege. that's a cop-out right there. I mean, because you need to bring more guns to the fight. That right there should not be a point of reference or even one of your weapons that you're using in a debate. What's the point? It just shows that you've given up, that you have no more knowledge to volley. You can't go back and forth with this person anymore, because this person you're speaking to has said something or has shown you something that a little above your pay grade. So now what you got to do is start pulling out the petty stuff. Well, you ugly. You know what I mean? It's pretty much the same thing. Or you'll never understand. You ain't walking my shoes. You don't. As soon as we started doing that, we lost.
But if I'm being interviewed, and we started here at some point together, right? What do? I go and I look and I go, who am I talking to? What do I know about him?
Exactly.
Brian does radio. Well, you and I have known each other a
Your
long
due
time.
diligence.
Before you were even on this couch. Same thing, Steve. So what do? You look up who you're interviewing, a lawyer, an attorney. You don't go for color, but you go for information.
Clearly, she made a gigantic mistake, and she has apologized. Have you accepted the apology?
It wasn't about accepting or not accepting. She got caught. What I hope people take away from it, because I have no reason to diss her, and I did invite her back, by the way. I said at the interview, let's come back and have a longer conversation about white privilege as you see it. So that invitation is out there, and hopefully we can take from this and the media firestorm, that's what happens, and get into that discussion.
There's definitely a lesson that we can learn here. We can be better people and not make stereotypes and assumptions based on someone's beliefs or how they vote. But if this were happening, if the shoe were on the other foot, if you had done this to her, if a conservative had done this to a liberal, what would be the reaction?
It would be calls for firing. They would be pressuring advertisers. The machine on the left would have gone into full-blown action. They would have demanded that I be thrown off Fox, that I be thrown off Sirius XM Patriot, that I be out of the media and out of the world. And that's a problem, because even though I don't agree with her, I invited her back. I want to have the debate, because the debate lets us expose the ideas and let people decide for themselves. Like I said, our skin's an organ, right? It doesn't think. It doesn't formulate ideas. It just says this is the result of your parentage.
We'll watch you more on Fox Nation and listen to you more on the radio.
And I always watch you guys in the morning when I'm prepping. So you're part of my prep.
All right, good job.
All right, so yeah, ignorance is bliss, and sometimes it shows its head. Not saying that the young lady was ignorant. She wasn't. Obviously, she's not. Extremely intelligent woman, black woman at that. And I believe that she earned every position that she everything that she achieved up to this point. It was just a misstep on her part, and she should have probably did a little bit more to know who she was talking to. It's silly, man. It's silly. If we're keeping it a buck, sometimes pettiness lends itself to otherwise productive conversations, and someone starts it because maybe something got triggered, maybe a sensitive button was hit, and they just felt like, you know what, I gotta say it. You don't know what you're talking about because of white privilege. You got white privilege, and you would never understand where I'm coming from. So just ridiculous. And then she's looking silly now because, oh, you're talking to a black man. You do realize I'm black, right? Now, guess what? Here's the wild part. To black people, that won't even come off as a loss to her. She probably looking at it like, well, I wouldn't have thought you was black if you sound black, if you presented yourself like a black man, if you had black thoughts, if you had black considerations and concerns, then I wouldn't have said that. I want to hear what y'all got to say about this in the comments below. And if you have yet to hit that subscribe button or the super thanks button, and thank you so much to everyone who has been hitting that button, please make sure you do so on your way out the door. Once again, guys, I'm Van, and now we are all the LFR family. And I look forward to seeing you on the next video, hopefully inside the Patreon as well. Y'all have been amazing, per usual. Love y'all.